Welcome back to lesson 11C. In the previous two lessons we looked at what object-oriented programming is and how to create a class definition with a constructor. Because this is such an important topic, in this lesson we'll go through another example creating a different constructor, this time to store information about cars. So in this lesson I'll remind you about what classes and instances are. We'll create a constructor to set the starting values of a car object, and a new skill, we'll define an output string for the class. So if you remember, all the objects in a class have the same attributes. So here are three examples of cars. They've got common attributes, although the actual values vary between the different cars. So to define a class called car, we have to create a constructor and decide what attributes all of our cars will have. And in this extremely simplified model, all the cars will have a colour, a make, like Rolls-Royce or whatever, and a speed that the car is going at. Remember that we don't know the name of the object. That's because we can produce any number of objects from this single class definition. So conventionally in Python, we use the word self. It's not strictly a keyword, so we could use a different word, but we conventionally use the word self to stand in for the name of the object itself. And when we define the attributes, we make them attributes of this kind of typical object. So self colour, self make and self speed. Not all programming languages do this, but Python does. And then we can use parameters to set the starting values of the object. So in this case, when we make a car, we have to give the colour and the make. And then those two parameters are assigned to the attributes colour and make. So every time we make a car using this constructor, we have to give the colour and the make. Of course, there are some values that we don't have to provide because they're the same for all objects. And in this example, it's the speed of the car. All the cars start still. They're not moving. When you get into the car or create the car object, it's not moving. So the speed is 0 in every case. So in that case, we don't have to provide a parameter. We know the value anyway. And then we can make objects which are instances of the class. So I'm creating two objects called my car and your car, and I'm giving the colour and the make of each car. So I've got a red Porsche and you've got a pink Rolls-Royce in this example. All the attributes of different objects are referred to by giving the name of the object, such as my car, then a dot, and then the name of the attribute, such as colour. I'm using the British spelling of colour here. And we can use those attributes like variables, and in this example I'm printing out the variables, the attributes. Well, what happens if I try to print the whole object? So here I've created a car object called my car, and I've told the computer to print my car. I get an error message, well, a kind of error code like this. What the computer is trying to do is print the entire object, but it doesn't know how to do that. The car's got three different attributes. Do I want it to print all of them or what? It doesn't know what to print. So what it's actually printed is the memory address of the location in my computer's memory where that car object is stored. And you can see it's a very large hexadecimal number. That's not really very helpful at all. Luckily, we can get round this problem. What we do is create a second function below the constructor. And like the constructor, it's got an unusual name, 2 underlines, str short for string, and 2 more underlines, and self in brackets. This is called the PrintString function, and we can put whatever code we want into it, but it has to return a string, and that string will tell the computer what to print when it has to represent this object in a print command or any other time when we need to show a string that defines the object. So I've just decided that it'll be the colour and a space and the make of the car, like pink Rolls-Royce. And I've used plus. The plus symbol, remember that when I'm referring to strings, that counts as concatenation. That does concatenation in Python. So I'm concatenating the colour attribute, a space, and the make attribute. And those 3 things concatenated together, that's how I want the computer to print out my car or any other car object. So this is the complete class definition, and if you want to, you can pause the video now and open Python and create this class right now. So I've created a car with the colour, make and speed attributes, and I've defined the string representation of a car as the colour, a space and the make. And then in the main program, what I've done is created 2 cars called my car and your car, and I've made them into a little list with 2 elements in it. And then for I in range length of the list, I'm printing that car, and it will print each one using that print style that I just defined earlier. So that's the end of the lesson. In this lesson, I've shown you how to create a class to define objects and set the attributes of objects within that class using a special type of procedure called a constructor. And then we investigated a function that we can create that returns a print string that the computer will use to when it needs to represent the object as a string. And we can use these attributes to create instances in the main program. And the key thing to remember is we have to provide the parameters to match the constructor. So I'm leaving you with a couple of tasks. Create the car program. I've got the precise code in this lesson, so you can go and just copy that and then try extending it by thinking of other attributes that you would add to a car. And a completely new task, create a class of objects which would represent social media accounts, for instance Instagram or Twitter accounts. What data would you save when you're creating a new social media account? You don't have to write anything else about the program apart from the constructor and the print string definition. Okay, so have a go at that, and in the next lesson we're going to start creating methods which are functions and procedures that will make our objects do things. Okay, bye for now.